If you think the Maytag repairman is lonely, imagine yourself a beginner stand-up comic. You're in front of a live audience and they're not laughing. At times like that, Rick Sandak says he prays to be funny, but the prayers of stand-up comedians are not always answered. Sandak is a Salt Laker who is trying to joke his way into the big time at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. In the past, the Comedy Store has launched the careers of comics like David Letterman and Richard Pryor, even Rodney Dangerfield. But will it do the same for a struggling young comedian from Salt Lake? Producer Judy Hallett reports.
I trace all of these sexual successes to a lesson I learned from my daddy very many years ago. He said to me, Enrico, you want to score big, guy, you got to know how to treat a lady. Huh?
He calls himself Enrico from Argentina, the last of the macho men, a tireless lover with a one-track mind.
And still, they don't talk back to me. And Enrico's starting to experience performance anxiety.
His real name is Rick Sandak, and he is from Salt Lake City, Utah. 10 years ago, Sandak came to Hollywood to make it as a scriptwriter. Along the way, he thought he would like to also be a stand-up comic.
Then I look in closer. Nah, she's not dead. She's asleep. Like a little child. And now I think it's perfect time to walk off with all her jewelry.
Actually, I was writing a story about comedy, and I wanted to do it, and figured I'd combine both. So I got an assignment from a magazine, and covered the scene, and just got up, performed a 6 to 8 minute spot that I wrote, and got hired.
I got a scratch and sniff Valentine wouldn't quit.
The Comedy Store is just the beginning. Rick admits that he has a long road ahead of him. Most of his jokes are a little off color. He says he is still looking for that right material.
Most of my stuff is just scum comedy, Judy. No, it's late night stuff, and I got to clean it up. You're right. You know, I got to start thinking about stuff that's more acceptable. I mean, look at this. I didn't know this place was here. People come here to get dessert. Look at this place. X-rated cakes. Isn't that fantastic? Back home, you got taffy shops. Here we've got X-rated. Let's go inside and take a peek. You want to? See, now, isn't this fantastic, kids? And where else could you go in this whole town? Look at the kinds of stuff you can get. For example, you can put your fantasy on cake right there. I can come to a place like this, and of course, you know, you can't show a cake like that. But look at this guy, for example. Isn't that something you've always wanted to dip into?
Do you have any clean jokes?
I do one clean piece where I talk about, you know, the Malibu wave damage. I was sorry to hear about that, and Flipper's home got hit, which was too bad. And a little gossip, that little Chicken of the Sea Mermaid and Charlie Tuna split up, and, you know. See why I don't do that kind of stuff?
Sandak considers himself first and foremost a writer. He writes articles and copy for ad agencies.
I make my living as a writer. I don't make my living as a comic.
What do you see yourself, your future goals in? Is it in writing?
Yeah, selling a script, you know, the Woody Allen thing. Ideal would be to sell a script and to star in it, or, you know, something like that. That's where my talent is.
So until he sells that script or becomes a big-time comic, Rick spends his time cruising.
This is Beverly Hills. Of course, you've heard about Beverly Hills. And the most traumatic thing that ever happened to Beverly Hills was in 1965 when LBJ passed the civil rights law. All the wealthy people here had to paint their lawn jockeys white. Look at that. If you look real close, you'll see something that's a favorite to a lot of people. And I know back home they're going to like this part. Look at that, beautiful. You're not going to see lawn in Los Angeles like this kind of lawn. This is high-grade LDS lawn. And look at that temple. A lot of people, when they see that temple, you know, and they know I'm from Salt Lake, they joke. And then they say the trumpeter, Moroni, of course, if you look close, he looks a little bit like Doc Severinsen. I tell people I'm originally from Salt Lake City, and the first thing they want to know is, am I Mormon? And I say, no, I'm second-generation Utah Jew. which doesn't make sense. And then I explained that my grandfather was the first, was immigrated from Russia and opened up the first Hart Schaffner Marx clothing store in Salt Lake City. How you doing? And that we were the first to sell the Mormons leisure suits. How do I get to Gentle Ben's house?
I mean Ben, the big bear?
Yeah, where does he live?
I don't have Gentle Ben on my map. You want to park it over there and come and see my map?
Yeah.
Stan Laurel, Gene Kelly, Carl Reiner, Ray Bolger, Robert Wagner.
Now what about Wink Martindale? How could I see Wink Martindale?
You mean that game show guy?
The game show.
But I don't have these guys
Oh,
on.
all right.
These are stars. These are not, you know,
Well, Wink Martindale's a
fooling
star.
around.
And if I had to give anybody advice, I would say, you know, work out your stuff. You know, make sure those laughs are there. Don't do it in front of your friends because they dig you. And keep that day job.
A C-spot. Do you get that joke? $100 bill. Boom, you're in, cats. A C-spot.
The delivery falters.
Work on it.
The joke dies in silence.
Is this too much? Huh?
For Rick Sandak, this is a worse kind of performance anxiety. But he is pursuing his dream of comic stardom.
I tell her I'm the illegitimate son of Ricardo Montalban.
He admits it's a long shot, but he hopes someday he'll be funny.
All right.